trigger happy and I give less than a fuck. Love me or hate me, I'ma show enough, rip shit up. It's Mr. Nothing, nice on a mic stand. Mic in the left and the zest in my right hand. I took a puff, had enough now, hold up. If that was Indo, niggas getting rolled up.
What's going on, folks? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review Ludacris's second album, Word of Mouth. Now, this was a fairly successful project. Definitely probably one of Ludacris's biggest albums. It had 4 hit singles off of it. It introduced Ludacris's more comedic side. And I would have to say about this project that it really has like a tongue-in-cheek kind of PG-13 and light-rated R kind of comedy feel towards it, just because it feels like it's very slapstick in its humor, but it does it in a rap sort of way. I mean, Ludacris could aim to be more of like, around that time, he could have aimed for more of like a 50 Cent or Scarface type vibe or someone like that, or Master P, but he kind of decides to go with a more comedic and kind of just comical asshole type vibe, you know, kind of like the Black Chris Farley or something like that. And I kind of felt like I appreciated the approach towards that, just because the more I think about it, the more original it really was. And it's definitely a pretty it's definitely a pretty profound concept to have gotten that early on, especially for 2001. I would have to say it was pretty much ahead of its time, just because there were not many comedic rap albums. Maybe Redman did it, but apart from him, there just were next to none. So Ludacris kind of chose like the thuggish lover man approach with his first album, Back for the First Time, with both of his singles, Southern Hospitality and then What's Your Fantasy, Tending to the Ladies. But this time he expands his repertoire a bunch. And the great thing about this album is there's 4 or 5 singles that all charted extremely well on the Billboard 100. They all did great. There weren't any just rap charts exclusives. All of these were kind of within like the top 35 of best songs in America circa late 2001 and early 2002, which goes to show that this was a very talked about project. And as it lives up to its name, word of mouth, to kind of sit there and say that yes, it was something that was being talked about. That's kind of the concept. So to talk about this, like the first single was Area Codes, and this was also on the Rush Hour 2 soundtrack. Has Nate Dogg on the hook, and he does an excellent job. And it's just an overall breezy, kind of low-key, mellow summer song that just is very catchy. And I definitely give Ludacris appeal for it because it was a clever concept, bragging about the fact that he had different women and different area codes across the United States and stuff. It was charming for what it was, and it's just a nice, easygoing rap romp that was great for the Rush Hour 2 soundtrack, but is even better on this project. Easy first single to kind of have for the rollout. The second single, speaking of rollout, is the song Rollout, and this is another hit song for Ludacris. Him talking about how people are starting to get surprised and ask questions about his newfound fame and how it's kind of getting on his nerves a bit. Now this one is not quite as heavy on the comedy, but he still has some punchlines on here that kind of showcase the fact that Ludacris can pack bars. I mean, really, it's not so much lyricism that Ludacris conveys in these songs as much as punchlines and like that type stuff that just has like the setup and then the whatever the rest of that phrase goes, the setup and then the fall, or how that situation goes with it. But the setup and then the lines, that's what happens on a lot of these. But Ludacris is funny, especially for 20 years ago. This was pretty outstanding because no one was doing this. And Rollout's a great single. I like the hook on there. I like the beat on there quite a bit. So there's plenty. It's real kind of energetic beat. Timbaland did a good job. And it's just melodic and easy on the ears. The third single, which I would have felt like most people probably would not have gotten to around this time. There were very few rap albums around this time that got to the 4th single for this time period. But to me, it was the surprise hit of this album, and it's Saturday, Ooh Ooh with Sleepy Brown. Sleepy Brown has teamed up with folks like Big Boy. He's kind of in like the Outcast kind of time frame, but he did a great job with Ludacris, and he also teamed up with Ludacris on the song Blueberry Yum Yum. So they have chemistry and they do a pretty good job together, but this is the first song they did. Surprise hit, completely worked well. This is an overall party song. This is an overall crunk song that works. Very energetic and with it and not laid back. Like when I said that Area Codes was laid back, this has a lot more energy towards it. Probably one of the more turned up songs on the project. I mean, Ludacris never quite reaches the full-blown point of getting completely shit-faced and fucked up, but I would definitely say that the energy on this song is more vibrant and kind of catchy than it was for the most part. And plus, it has a great hook, just easy to kind of sing along to and that type stuff. The fourth single, I'm sure most of you probably know. This is probably the most successful single from this project. It was Mouf, Bitch. Very easy to meme and quote. Easy to meme and quote. Has the energetic and another meme-ready rapper and Mystical on there. He's someone who was popular around that time. He was kind of like another version of Old Dirty Bastard that was very popular. But I really like the beat. This is probably one of my favorite beats on this album, and Mouf, Bitch. It's just simple and kind of thumping and just a great cruising and speeding song in the car. You know, going fast. I mean, not necessarily speeding like getting a ticket, but just going fast and having a good time. Easy. So many people probably just get turned up to this song. It's one of the easiest songs, especially for 2001, 2002, to get turned up to. Energetic, keeps the pace. Pretty much an early crunk song that pretty much I would have expected from someone like Lil Jon or something. I think one of the few weaknesses to this song is just the fact that Ludacris did not have a second verse, because he did so outstanding, and Mystical did great, and I would even say I-20 did great. I mean, they all did great, but Ludacris should have added a fourth verse and kind of owned this song as his own. To kind of, it would have made more sense for him to have had two verses just to prove that he could own it. But it's a decent posse song, but I felt like there should have been more Ludacris on the song. It's the most successful single off this project, and it caps off the album's singles as 4 hit ones. But luckily, there is a bonus single because Jermaine Dupri dropped an album in late 2001 also, but because the team up was so kinetic, they decided for both of the albums, Jermaine Dupri's album and Ludacris's album both have the song Welcome to Atlanta. So that's the secret fifth single. It was the first single or second single, one of the singles for Jermaine Dupri's album, but it's basically the fifth single from Word of Mouth. Kind of reminds me of just a long car trip, not quite as much of a fast car trip as Mouf, Bitch, but definitely I can see folks being in the car and cruising around. Doesn't quite feel as much of like a party track or a ladies track or like a smoking track or something like that, or a posse track. It feels just more like just cruising in the car, got some errands to run, maybe getting ready to go to a party, something like that. But it just kind of has like a mellow but then with a light edge to it kind of vibe that I got. Ludacris did outstanding in lyrics. I mean, he was just easy enough to listen to the whole way. I appreciated him. And Jermaine Dupri didn't quite have the energy of Ludacris, but he didn't drop the ball. So it's just a good song, but I mean, really, it's not separate from Block Lockdown, so really you have to separate it yourself, or if you buy the CD, you have to listen to the 4 minutes before you get to that album or that song. So it's just kind of, I do wish they would have separated it so it would have been easier to listen to, but for the most part, it's a great song. So 5 singles, and the thing about this album is there are some hits on here, but to me, it's not really a classic. I feel like it's got a number of hits that back up I mean, really for 2001 to get to like the 4th and 5th single was great, but that does not mean that this album is packed to the gills with hits. I mean, it had more than I expected, but I still feel like about half of the album was lacking. I mean, there's really some bad blunders of beats here that are just ugly to listen to. Songs like Coming to America, Crybabies, what else? Word of Mouth, Freestyle, Get the Fuck Back, Cold Outside. I mean, a lot of these just felt like a pretty ugly listen, and they didn't have like any melody or any. They just felt like plotting album cuts that basically you kind of question, why am I listening to this? What's the point? I don't know how many scenarios where people would actually think that they're going to listen to Cold Outside or Get the Fuck Back or some of those. I mean, they don't really have much juice or venom to them to really designate. I mean, compared to a song like Move Bitch or Saturday, I feel like some of these beats were just kind of bottom of the barrel and just to really fill out the project. Because this album is 16 songs. If you remove the 3 skits and then you add Welcome to Atlanta on there, there's 16 songs, but a number of these probably shouldn't have been on there. I would have said you could probably have snipped like 3 of these and been just fine. I think really it's packed to the gills with music and skits, but some of these were just extraneous the whole way through. I mean, that's the concept. Growing Pains is another one that I questioned. I mean, I understand that they were trying to show development and stuff, but it just kind of came off as them wanting to go back to being teenagers or something, which I mean, it somewhat had personality, but it's kind of difficult if you don't have that same mindset that they did. And, like Freaky Things is a good example of a good album cut. There's a number of ladies cuts on here that Ludacris did great with. I feel like songs like Area Codes, She Said, which is kind of like a gossip, kind of flirty, you know, people are talking, that type. People are talking about us, talking about her, talking about him type vibe. And She Said, Area Codes, Keep It on the Hush, and then Freaky Things are all some great songs for the ladies. That kind of, I mean, it almost feels like a mini R&B album in ways, because Jagged Edge is on here, Sleepy Brown's on here, Jazzy Faye is on here, Nate Dogg is on here. So there's just a number of cuts that kind of do have like a light, it's a comedy album, but also a light R&B album. And really, I would say that Ludacris packed more R&B venom than R&B singers at that time. I mean, I would say he did a better job than Genuine back in 2001, better than Jagged Edge, who only really had the hit Nelly song. Just folks like that. I mean, R&B wasn't quite as explosive as it was in 2003 and 2005 and such. So I would just definitely have to say that Ludacris kind of succeeded on more than one cylinder by also delivering a pretty stellar R&B project within that. But just to kind of say, yeah, so there's just some real cruddy beats on here, and I just feel like they kind of, you know, downplay this project of being a classic. I mean, if there was just like 2 or 3 of them, but the fact that there's like 7 of them that are kind of worthless and don't have value and just feel like a waste of time to even have on here, despite the fact that this has 4 or 5 singles on the project, it really makes it a blemish in a lot of ways. I wouldn't say it was a blemish, like I said, if it was just 2 or 3, but when it's like 6 or 7 or even 8, it's kind of like, damn, you know, it's just like these are missed opportunities that just hold the project back. Because going from a 5-star album to like a 3.5-star album, it's like, I know Ludacris struggled to get the sheer velocity that he had on this album again. And that's the thing. None of his other albums, apart from the Red Light District, got this many singles. But the problem with it is because of the plotting songs that are kind of on this project, it holds it back from being a true classic. I feel with songs like Crybabies, Coming to America, Growing Pains, Word of Mouth Freestyle, Get the Fuck Back, Cold Outside, and Block Lockdown, these are way too many songs that keep this project from being a classic. Most of these, they have bad production, pointless topics, redundant personality, and just overall a waste of just good Ludacris lyrics that he could have put on more songs like Saturday. Could have had a drinking song, could have had like a drinking song, could have had like another car song, something like that. Could have had just like, I mean, there's some other type topics that could have been on here, like another Posse song, something like, I mean, he did deliver a couple Posse songs, but some other interesting topics that could have gone along. Definitely a drinking song, definitely a car song. Trying to think of some other things that could have happened. Maybe like a song for the homies, you know, I would say, I mean, for the most part, Ludacris has a pretty versatile topic palette on this album. But now we're starting to get into like Tupac territory, where you can say, yeah, song for the homies, song for the homies, song for liquor, song for cars, song for like this an overall introduction single. Like another single like or Rollout would have been great also. Just something kind of like a song that could be a single but just wasn't, something like that. I mean, there's a number of ladies cuts on here that kind of do that vibe, but probably just like another song like Rollout would have been really good, because that's like one of the definitive singles that is not really for cars, partying, or women, but just feels like a standalone single in a sense that it just has overall personality, and Ludacris could have used another song like that. That's just the concept. So I'm going to give this album, I'll go ahead and list to you the 9 songs out of 16 I recommend. So here are the 9 songs. Roll Out, Go to Sleep with 3-6 Mafia, I-20, and Lil Fate. Area Codes, Move Bitch, Saturday, Freaky Things, She Said, Welcome to Atlanta, and Keep It on the Hush. Now, basically, I talked about all the singles. Go to Sleep is a really neat posse cut, has 3-6 Mafia on there. Basically a 6-verse song, which is just a lot of fun. Real kind of fiery, and they all pack punchlines. Keep It on the Hush is a nice, mellow, lady song that just is kind of flirty in a light sense. Freaky Things has a great verse from Twista and is just an overall good R&B song. And She Said is another slinky. I mean, some of these are just slinky, flirty numbers. But yeah, there's just not enough songs like Rollout. If you're looking for like songs for like the homies, when I said most of these songs for ladies I enjoy, there's not enough. Like, it's either thuggish or kind of soft. And that's kind of the concept. But there needed to be more songs like Rollout that were just overall fun. Not necessarily swag, but just kind of bravado songs. I mean, Saturday and Rollout are about the only ones that kind of have that vibe. And, Move Bitch has the most energy of like the whole album, but there's obviously no other song like that. So if you're here for just like the Move Bitch, Get Out My Way type memes that kind of circulated with Ludacris around that time, there's really nothing else like that, despite the fact that there's a song called Get the Fuck Back. That song sucks. And there's nothing that quite captures the poignancy and energy of Move Bitch. But it doesn't mean this is a bad album. It's just like, for folks that they just get so thrilled and enthralled by the energy of Move Bitch, there's really nothing else like it. And it's kind of the same thing, there not being anything else like Rollout. There needed to be another personality song like that. But me liking 9 songs out of 16, I'm going to give this album a 6.5 out of 10, because I really definitely have to give it an E for effort. But then I also have to say the sheer amount of singles on this project was really impressive. It's all the energy that was put into it. It's just kind of mismatched, because there are some kind of dicey points where there should have been at least a follow-up. Not so much there wasn't a follow-up, but just like a companion piece to some of the moments that there actually were. I feel like songs like Roll Out and Move Bitch could have used another song that captured those energies again, compared to some of the songs we got instead, like Coming to America and Crybabies, that didn't feel like they had a point whatsoever. And that's just kind of the concept. The social score I'll give a 9 out of 10. Actually, I'll give it a 10 out of 10, because 5 singles that all did great. The social score, which is how well this plays around your friends and people that you're trying to introduce music to and try some, try like new vibes kind of with. I would have to say that 5 singles, there's not much better than that you can really do. And especially the fact that Ludacris is not as like, large as like Prince or Michael Jackson or something, who normally get to that number of singles. So Ludacris did great, 10 out of 10 in terms of social score. And then I would have to say, in terms of the future, as far as what Ludacris has been up to nowadays, he hasn't dropped an album since 2015. And he's dropped like spare singles, but I haven't really paid attention because I'm hoping he'd drop another home project. But all he's really done in recent times is just the Fast and the Furious movies. But for what it is, this is an above average project. It's kind of spotty in some senses, but you have to give it applause for the fact that it had the sheer commercial value that it did, which is definitely impressive.